This is a joint briefing of Top Secret Tuesday, Special Access Need to Know Wednesday, Florida Maquis Patreon channel, $5 and $10 levels, respectively. The channel has had its hands full, the Maquis, with the issue in Venezuela, spiraling out of control very, very quickly. As soon as I get a certain amount of information laid down, it changes. And when that happens, to put up a video with dated information just isn't a direction I want to go. So thank you very much for your patience. I appreciate it. The one thing that we are going to try to cover today regarding psychological operations is this. I'm sure many of you, if you've been following the situation in Venezuela, have seen these massive street protests on the 23rd of January. Now ask yourself a question. Why now? If there were all of these people that were so politically active and so upset, why weren't they doing this last month? Or the month before that? Or the month before that? Maduro was still in charge of the military. He's still in charge of state functions. If this were truly an organic movement, why today? And why Juan? Why random guy named Juan that I've covered at YouTube? See, no one wants to ask that question. Because if they ask that question, what they'll come to the conclusion is, well, they had to wait until after Maduro was inaugurated. Why would they have to do that? If he's not the legitimate president, if he's never been the legitimate president, as the Vice President of the United States alleged, why would January 10th have ever meant anything? This is what happens when you step out of your emotional brain and you get into your thinking brain. These things become apparent. That this is very clearly the U.S. instigating a coup. This isn't an organic movement. This isn't something that happened by the people of Venezuela, for the people of Venezuela, of the people of Venezuela. This was a very clear and coordinated, directed strike from the United States, just like happened back in 14 and 15 that failed. They wanted Maduro deposed then, didn't work back in 13, didn't work in 2002, hasn't worked down here for a long time. Now the U.S. is stepping up its game, but to just say we're going to recognize this unelected shadow government and then try to control the media. I don't know how this is not being seen as criminal in the world courts. Because the issue with Nicolas Maduro is long settled. The people that want to be in charge now refused to participate in the last election. So it's more legitimate now for them to be named the president of Venezuela by the U.S. than to run in an election and lose. That is, I am actually at a loss for words at the deafening silence out of the UN on this. What my government, I love my country and my neighbors I would lay down my life for, but what my government just did is criminal. And I mean criminal in one of the worst ways. They are attempting to usurp the power and authority of a sovereign nation by simple media tricks and psychological operations. Against the people. They're turning the people of Venezuela on themselves for all of their protestations of wanting to represent all of the people. They're making half of the country go to war with the other half, just very strangely, like they did here during the last election cycle. The amount of vitriol and hatred and anger and angst and violence, never before seen in this country. And every election cycle it gets worse, and they have now, our government, have exported this to Venezuela to get their way. That's the level of evil going on right now. But right out of the other side of their mouth, and this is from Reuters, the U.S. is now talking about sanctions. Well, why? Wait a minute. Why are we still sanctioning Venezuela? If we recognize this guy's president and he's not a dictator, why are we sanctioning the country? Why are we sanctioning the oil production? If this guy's president, it literally it argues with itself. If your guy's in charge, and here they talk about how this guy just came out of nowhere a month ago and decided he was going to magically be president. But their guy is in charge now. Why wouldn't all the sanctions be lifted? Why wouldn't there be, if they're really truly not going to recognize Nicolas Maduro, and he is of none effect, and means nothing to the U.S., and is just, I guess, according to the U.S., random guy named Nicholas, and now it's President Juan, well, why sanction anybody? Why not let banks refinance? Why not just lift it all and pretend it never happened? You see, the continuing of the sanctions proves that this is a psyop. And the U.S. can't get around it. And the fact that the military in Venezuela has told the U.S. again to go screw themselves is going to be the ultimate failure of all of this, and it's going to reveal something. That at the end of the day, politicians have no power. Only the military does. Because that's the ultimate threat. That's the ultimate threat at the end of every statement a government may or may not make. Either do ABC, or we're going to use the military, the police, or whoever to do blah, blah, blah. Well, that assumes that the military is going to listen to that government. Because there's not some other military to put the military in jail if they don't. This is where people stop thinking, and they just continue to use their feeling brain to make all of their decisions. That's why this guy, I mean, unless I've been wrong before, but I very much doubt that this guy ever sees the inside of Miraflores Palace. But in the process, in the interim, it is going to give the United States their own make-believe reason in their own mind to invade a sovereign nation or to back other countries doing it. Brazil and Colombia. And that I've been able to pull up, 6 articles all off Reuters in the last 5 hours, shows the level to which they are trying to push this story. Not one person is asking a question about this. Not one person is questioning the narrative out of D.C., at least not publicly. Those who are questioning the narrative at Telesur and at RT and Venezuela Analysis are being blocked, heavily blocked. I put a video up last night, and it was an hour before it registered any views, which for a channel with 80,000 subs is a little odd. It finally was able to weasel its way through the servers, and with everything trending, it was able to make its way up, but they are trying the very best they can to silence any opposition. But the problem here is this, and of course, this one article that contradicts the narrative is literally 3 sentences, and that's it. Nothing more. This is 23 January, 6 hours ago. Venezuela Defense Minister disavows opposition president. Vladimir Padrino said via Twitter, the country's armed forces disavow any president who is self-proclaimed or imposed by dark interests. It came hours after opposition leader Juan Guaido swore himself in as president. Swore himself in. Do these people even read their own stories? It's breathtaking how unbelievably apparent this is. What's going on, and there's not a single... You would think with Fox and CNN and MSNBC and Breitbart, these people thrive on contradicting each other, calling each other into question. No one's contradicting anybody. Everybody is all on the same sheet of music. And it is really, really frightening, because it makes the idea that there's a larger group of people controlling things, both sides, it makes that quote-unquote conspiracy theory not a conspiracy theory. But I will attempt to do the very best I can to keep up on this in a way that I can make these videos at Patreon educational, training, where you can walk away from this having something you didn't have before. But as fast as these stories move, it's going to be a very, very difficult thing, and I will apologize ahead of time. If it's going to take me a while, I may not be able to do 5 videos a week. I may have to do a lot of joint briefings, because that's how fast information is moving on this right now. So I really would appreciate you guys hanging around and sticking with me. You guys have stuck with me for a long time. But I do understand if it's something where you just need to use the YouTube channel as your primary source of info. But we will continue to do the very best we can to do training here. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time.